Is the mic, okay, the mic's on. Did you like that? Enjoy that? Yeah. Now start thinking of questions, because we're going to introduce Bob, and I'll come around, just raise your hand, and I'll come around to you to the mic. So please welcome our very special guest for today and tomorrow, Mr. Bob Bergen.
Guys, how are you? You guys have fun? Yeah. Cool. All right, so hit me with a question. I'm yours.
I'm going to start out with the first question, and then I'll go to everyone.
Okay.
Let's start at the very beginning. When you were a kid, did you start doing the cartoon voices then?
Yeah, I was the kid who sat in school doing voices in class and getting in trouble, and a teacher would ask me a question, and I would answer the question like a teacher. And I would be Porky Pig instead of myself, and so yeah, I got into a lot of trouble in school, and it was my calling. I wanted to be Porky Pig when I was 5 years old. My mom said, "You can't be Porky Pig, you're Jewish."
Okay, we have a question over here, Bob.
Was your career hard, or do you like acting?
What's that?
Do you like doing the voice animation process?
Oh, it's great. It's a lot of fun. And for those of you who don't know, the voices are recorded first, and then they animate to the soundtrack. A lot of people think you have to watch the cartoon when you do the voices, but you actually record it first. So it's you don't have to dress the part. Nobody's going to say you have to go to the set and look a certain way. You don't have to wear makeup. It's a dream job.
Okay, we have a question over. Well, let me take the one in the middle
Tim, you
first.
get your exercise for this weekend, don't you?
Oh, I was going to say, who did you replace?
Mel Blanc. Yeah, Mel Blanc. Who wasn't the original voice of Porky Pig. A guy named Joe Doherty created the character, and he had a real stutter. And it cost a lot of money to make the cartoons because he wasted a lot of film. And so Jack Warner, back in the 30s, said, find somebody who could control the stutter, so they got Mel Blanc. He passed away in '89, and my first job was Tiny Toons in 1990.
Did you ever work with Mel?
No, I stalked him. I called him up at home when I was about 14 just to see how he got in the business, find out how to get in the business, and he said, "How did you get my number?" And I said, "It was in the phone book under your wife's name," but I did some research and found his wife's name. I also taped that conversation. If you want to hear it, it's on my website.
And what's the address?
BobBergen.com. Go to Cool Clips on the main menu. I don't think that's illegal 20-some-odd years later, but it certainly was back then. I don't recommend that you tape conversations.
When you were talking earlier about doing voices when you were a kid,
Yeah.
remember the very first voice you learned?
Just for fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, very well. It was a baby cry. Because I noticed that my mom reacted when I was young, crying like a baby. And so I kept it up. Because I got what I wanted. So, I'd be like 4 or 5 years old, and I'd be... And my mom would be like, "You talk now." I'm like, "Oh yeah." So that was the first voice I did.
Okay, here's a question.
Yes, hi, Bob.
Hi.
In your workout routine, when you're keeping your voices fresh, can you talk a little bit about what your practice is like, and also about how many character voices? And then my third question is, after the stalking, then what happened?
After we stalked Mel Blanc, well, I'll answer your last question first. When I called him up at home, I wanted to find out if he was still doing cartoons, and at that time they weren't. They stopped back in the 60s, but he would record commercials, and at that time they were recording Looney Tunes on Ice for the Ice Capade show. I found out where he was recording, so I told my mom, I said, "Look, we're skipping school that day, and we're going to go watch him record." So when we got to the studio, I told the receptionist that we were guests of Mel Blanc. So I watched him work, and I learned. I teach how to do voices for cartoons as well, and I think my golden rule is that if you physically play the character, the voice will follow. Because when Mel Blanc was Porky Pig from head to toe, he looked like Porky Pig. When he jumped to Tweety, he looked like Tweety. And then I studied with a guy named Dawes Butler. And Dawes Butler was Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, Elroy Jetson, Captain Crunch, almost every voice that Mel Blanc wasn't. And I just started studying. I took acting classes and voiceover classes, and I got my first cartoon a week out of high school, which was Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And what were your other questions?
When you're working on keeping your voices fresh, if you, I don't know, because you're working so much, maybe on the job is actual workout for you.
For me it is, yeah.
Yeah, so
you
keep
get
it fresh, how do you...
You know, the key to success in this business is being original. That's not an original character, so I don't own Porky Pig. It's literally an impression that I'm doing of a classic character. But 99% of what I do, I will be creating original characters. You keep a list of everything you do. Every voice, even if it's a bad impression of Richard Nixon, you write it down. And you have a list with you. I would keep a notebook with me everywhere I went of characters and voices that I could do. And I'm always constantly, in my class, a student will be up there doing a voice, that's really good. I'm gonna steal that. I do that all the time, but you're a voice person yourself, so you are always hearing interesting voices and going, you have a little file in the back of your head that you store everything. I think the important thing is to practice every single day. If you want to do voices for cartoons and you're not in a city that offers the classes, read comic books. Because comic books are basically like storyboards with all the dialogue and the exposition. You can give the exposition the narrator's voice, but you can voice every character. But constantly read and study acting, etc., etc., etc. Just, I work every day, so I'm always doing it. But if you're not, you've got to be working at home every single day. Comic books for animation is a great idea.
Okay, we have another question right here.
Can you do Porky the Pig?
Can I do Porky? Well, let me think. Maybe. What's my dialogue? What should I say? Tweety Bird? Oh, you baby little putty tat.
And Porky?
I'm going to blow up the Earth. It obstructs my view of Venus. Isn't that lovely?
Here's a trivia question. And we talked about this with some of the people outside. Anybody know what Marvin's real name was? Marvin wasn't named Marvin the Martian until the 80s when Warner Brothers was licensing the character because they only had, I think, 2 or 3 appearances of the character originally. And Chuck Jones, who created him, didn't have a name for him. He was never referred to in the cartoons by name. In the script, they called him Antwerp because he designed him from an ant. And he was a little guy, so he's an Antwerp. So in the 80s, the Warner Brothers stores started popping up. And they're like, okay, we got a Martian character. Well, we got Bugs Bunny, Porky Pig, Daffy Duck, Marvin Martian. That's how he got it. And literally, at a board meeting, that's how he got his name. Marvin Martian, so there you go.
Okay, question over here.
Yes?
Can you do Bucky from the Emperor's New Groove?
Can I do Bucky from the Emperor's New Groove? Do you guys know who Bucky is? Bucky's a squirrel. He doesn't say anything, he just makes noises.
And we got a question here from Derek Zimrak.
Hi, Bob. You mentioned that you teach voiceover work, and I understand it's here in Northern California.
I teach out here in South Toledo every once in a while, maybe about once a month, a place called Voice Tracks in South Toledo. Yeah, I've got a regular workshop in LA, an 8-week class, and I go all over the country teaching animation voiceover classes.
And another question from this gentleman.
Yes, sir.
Can you do the voice of the guy in Cars?
The guy in Cars? Cars hasn't come out yet? This is so funny. I did the film Cars. I did that probably 3 years ago, and I don't remember what I did. I was one of the pit stop guys in the racetrack, and when you do an animated feature, it's a 1 to 5 year process. So I'll go to the movie when it's released, and I'll go, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, okay. Because you may do a page of dialogue and then come back 6 months later and do another 3 pages, and then the next week do half a page, and then a year later come back and do another page. So it's a long process. I just did Santa Claus 3, and I think there's is the Santa Claus 3 elf here? Yeah, half the cast. Santa Claus 3 is in this room right now. Santa Claus 3 comes out in Christmas time. How odd. And I play Comet the Reindeer, which I played in Santa Claus 2 as well. And Comet's sort of like Bucky, but a little deeper. He has intestinal problems.
Okay, here's a question.
Was it the belch? Was it the belch that answered it? There you go. See, I'm here for you.
Okay, we get some more questions down there.
Tim is just getting his exercise today.
I know, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
On the, what characters have you created yourself when they come to you and say, we need a voice for this?
Well, Bucky was something I created myself. I knew, do you guys ever see The Emperor's New Groove?
Yeah.
The Emperor's New Groove was originally a heavy drama called Kingdom of the Sun. And I played an Inca warrior. And a year later, they said, well, that movie's been scrapped. It's now a comedy called The Emperor's New Groove. We need the voice of a squirrel. And I said, well, what does the squirrel do? Well, Patrick Warburton, who played Kronk, is his little buddy, and he just takes him all over the film. And so you're basically explaining stuff, and Kronk is saying squeak, squeak, and squeak, squeaky, and that's all we've got for him right now. So I created the voice. We've done 2 features and a series, and I just met Patrick Warburton about a month ago for the first time, because all of our voices were recorded separately. I'd never met the guy, and he was at the session. I said, oh, Patrick, I play Bucky. And he goes, I thought that was a sound effect. Nope, it's me.
Okay, here's a question.
What's your company's name?
What's that?
What's your company's name?
What's my company's name? Is that what you were asking? What's my company's name? I don't really have a company, I just me, Bob. So I'm Bob Bergen Incorporated. We'll call it that. Are you looking to hire my company? I'm available.
Okay, here's another question.
What's the hardest voice you do, and what makes it hard?
Well, none of the voices I do are hard, oddly enough. Games are difficult to do. When you do video games, CD-ROMs, I do the voice of Luke Skywalker for the Star Wars games. What's difficult about that is you'll do every option the player's going to have. So it might go, he's right behind you, make a left. He's right behind you, make a right. Disappear. Or screams, those are difficult. For Porky, oddly enough, the most difficult thing I have to do is to say that's all, folks. Because Mel Blanc said it once in 1936, and they only used it at the end of the cartoons for the first year. After that, they started spelling it out at the end of the cartoons. And when he did it, he hadn't developed the character the way he is now. So when people say that's all, folks, I'll say, well, do you want classic Porky saying that's all, folks, or do you want the way he says it now? And they're usually like, what? I don't get it. What are you talking about? So that's probably one of the most difficult things I have to do.
Here's a question.
Most of the time when you do the voiceover, do you see the character image before you start giving the voice for that?
Sometimes the question was, do you see the characters when you're working? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
So when you see the character, what exactly, how do you decide that?
What's the creative process?
Yeah.
Okay, the first thing I do is I look at the picture if there's a picture. And and if the character has a jaw that sticks out, I'm going to stick my jaw out. And then I look at the description of the character. It says, he's a mean, tough Western Texan guy. So I'm going to give him a mean, tough Texan. I take it on physically first. If you physically play the character, the voice will follow. I always take on the facial expressions, the body language, etc. from the drawing. And then there's the dialogue and the character description helps too. But I'll give you an example. There's no such thing as an original voice. Every voice has been done. There's only original characters. Nancy Cartwright does Bart Simpson. She had been doing that little boy voice for dozens, I can't say dozens of years, for oodles of years on other projects. But what made it Bart Simpson was the personality, the script, the dialogue, the acting. It's just a little boy voice. But the personality of the character makes it an original character. But there really is no such thing as an original voice. Every voice has been done.
Okay, here's a question.
Welcome to Danville.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, why are all the new movies always featuring a particular character? If it's Cameron Diaz, and
Are you asking the celebrity question?
yeah, so I'm asking why it's so important to them when it's a voice that it have that? Is there some correlation between those persons' features, or what is it?
Well, first of all, let me say that the phenomenon of hiring a celebrity for animation isn't new. The first time it was done was the first animated feature, which was Snow White back in the 30s. However, it seems like there's more today because there's just so much more product. Let's think like a studio executive. Who's going to come and see our movie? Well, if Brad Pitt's playing the lead, they'll come and see it. That's not true. If the script is good and the story is good, they're going to come and see it. We know that, I know that, but the executives who want people to come and see the movie, whether it's good or not, they don't know it. So they hire celebrities to carry the film, and it doesn't always work. It does with Pixar. Pixar hires celebrities who fit the characters. They're always looking at story and script first over at Pixar, where other companies aren't necessarily thinking, hey, it's Demi Moore, she's going to make this movie the best it could possibly be. Well, the script isn't there, that's just not going to happen.
Bob, by the way, the mayor of Danville, Karen Stepper, who asked the question.
Your Honor! Nice to meet you. Thank you. I'm pleased to be here. It's a pretty town. It's great. I haven't had much time to explore except for a little drive, but it's gorgeous. Thank you very much.
Okay, here's another question.
What's your favorite voice you've ever done?
Porky. Probably. Porky Pig. Yeah. I've also been doing Speedy Gonzales, which they hadn't used for a long time because he's not politically correct. But they're kind of, I guess, easing up on that a little bit more. He's a fun character. What's that? Do Speedy?
Speedy Gonzales, he thinks it's nuts in the way he go. Hola, I'm gonna hit
Okay, another question from this young gentleman.
What are all the voices that you do?
What are all the voices I do?
Do every single one of them right now.
Alright, let's see here. There's one. I don't know how many voices I do. I get asked that all the time. Because you might do the same sound for different characters. I do a bunch. I don't know. 3 or 4. You know what? You don't have to do thousands of characters to work in this business. You just have to be a really good actor. I know there's a lot of people like Paul Winchell, who passed away last year. As far as I know, he did 3 voices. But he did those same voices over and over and over again. He did the voice he did for Tigger, for the Dow bathroom cleaner scrubbing bubbles commercial. Sterling Holloway was Winnie the Pooh. He was also the snake in Jungle Book, same voice. You just have to really change the personality of the character.
Okay, question up here.
Can you explain the process of creating a new character's voice when you first acquire something?
So how do you get the job? What happens and all that stuff?
Like how do you create a new character's voice?
Well, okay, so your agent will call you in to audition for a new project, and when you get there, there's a piece of paper with a picture, dialogue, maybe 5 lines, and a description. Based on all that information, you go into a studio, and you give your interpretation of what that character would be. If they like what you're doing, or you're on the right track, they'll call you back to do the same thing for a producer, director, somebody from the studio. If they think you're the best choice for the project, you'll get the part. I just did a pilot for Nickelodeon called Commander Bunsworth, and he's the commander of a spaceship.
Here, look, he talks like this. Commander Bunsworth is a captain. He's a rabbit, actually. And his ears come through his helmet, and he's a very tough ship captain.
So I did it once, about 6 months ago. I'll find out soon if it goes to series. If it goes to series, it takes 4 hours to record an episode of a cartoon. Sometimes you get the script before, sometimes you don't. So let's say you don't. So you get there at 9 o'clock, you read through a page of dialogue, the director gives you some adjustments, you do it again. The second time you read those lines, that's the character, that's the line, that goes to animation, you go to the next page. So it's really, if you guys know what the term cold read is, voiceover it's not cold, it's frozen. It's really cold. So that's really the process, and then it'll take approximately 1 year for television, from recording it to on the air. For an animated feature, like I said, 2 to 5 years. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, more questions out there? Oh, someone way up there.
I don't need that. Do you work primarily with an agent?
Yeah.
Just like a movie star would?
Exactly.
Are
There.
contracts similar? Contract to do a job like a movie star would?
It depends on the job. You know, a radio commercial pays differently than a TV commercial, and a network's TV commercial pays different than a wild spot, which is something that runs in the local markets. Yes, you have to work with an agent. There are hundreds of agents in Los Angeles for on-camera movies, commercials, etc. There's only about 15 for voiceover. And they have studios in their office. Without a voiceover agent, you can't read for things because they don't just send audition material to every agent, just the voiceover agents. So without a voiceover agent, you won't know 95% of what's going on out there. And as far as the contracts, yeah, commercials and commercials and commercials. So you get residuals. If you do a voiceover commercial, you get residuals on a cartoon when it's rerun. If you do an animated feature and it's sold or rented, you get paid for that as well. So yeah, and all that information you can get at the Screen Actors Guild. I'm sure SAG.org online. They'll have sample contracts and stuff if you want to check out all that business stuff.
Okay, another question right here.
So you don't just do vocals for cartoons, you do...
Oh no, I do
all kinds
of... I'll tell you something that's interesting that I do is I will re-voice actors in movies for various reasons. I did the TV version of Basketball Diaries. I'm the voice of Leonardo DiCaprio, but only when he's stoned. It's to clean up all the dirty words.
Yeah.
Another actor did his voice when he was sober. Leo auditioned for it and didn't get the job because his voice had changed too much. And then sometimes you'll re-voice actors in a movie for the initial release because the director didn't like their work. And I'll give you an example. Did anybody see Total Recall?
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
There's a scene where Schwarzenegger supposedly, well, it's the custom scene in Mars, and it's a big chubby lady, and her face splits open and Arnold comes out. Well, the customs agent was from Austria, and his first line was, "Do you have anything to declare?" And they said, "He sounds too much like Arnold," and they thought it would give away the gag, so they hired me to re-voice him. So it's my voice coming out of his face, which is kind of creepy when you see it on film, but very lucrative when you get the checks.
Okay, here's a question.
I've actually done auditions for voiceovers that you can that I've been able to record with the phone or load them onto my computer and email them. Since you're well known, do you always have to go in, or can you do something like that?
No, I actually do read most of my stuff from my house because I have a home studio. But I recommend not doing that until you're making a living at it, because you really do need a director who, that you're so busy working, you're so busy performing that you can't listen to yourself. But when you get to a point where you're working every day, I mean, where I live in Los Angeles, if my agent wants me to come in at 9 o'clock in the morning, I have to leave my house at 7 to get there at 9. And then I'm there maybe reading for an hour and a half, and then an hour and a half back, so half your day's gone just trying to get the job, which is why I built a home studio.
Here's a question.
Do you also act?
You like on camera?
Yeah.
I did a lot of sitcom work in the 80s, Facts of Life, Give Me a Break, One Day at a Time, that sort of thing. And I hosted a game show for kids a few years ago. I did a show called Jep, which was Jeopardy for Kids on Game Show Network. But right now, I'm just pretty much just doing the voiceover thing. You don't have to shave, it's great.
And what advice do you have for someone that wants to get into that business of voiceover work?
Become the best actor you possibly can, and study acting before you study voiceover, because you're going to find you're going to have to retrain in voiceover if you haven't studied acting first. I'd say no matter what it is you want to do, whether it's voicing cartoons, drawing cartoons, singing, go for it. Study. Become prepared. Medicine, law, I don't care what it is you want to do. Follow your dream. I mean, I had a specific character I wanted to play. The odds were against me. I mean, I lived in the Midwest. I happened to be in town at the time when they needed this character, and I was trained, and I made the connections, etc. I just think that no matter what it is you want, the world is out there for you to grab it, do it, don't settle, have fun, enjoy the journey. But again, if voiceover is what you want, become a good, solid actor first, and then study voiceover, because it is nothing but acting for commercials, cartoons, etc.
One thing I want everyone to know, that Bob is one busy guy. If you look at his calendar, it's just filled every weekend with personal appearances and work. And for him to take the time out to visit us this weekend, thank you so much for being here, Bob. Bob will be here again tomorrow also for the Q&A. So make sure you come back. Thank you, Bob, very much.
Thanks, guys.
guess, the actor that's